It's nearly been 2 years since I did the top 5 drivers for under £100 going into 2020, and I'm really glad I made that video because it makes us realise where we were and where the market is now. But you can still find some absolute gems for under £100, and even though every driver at the moment seems like £100, here's the ones that you should look for and the ones to stay away from. And lastly, what went from underrated to heavily overrated over the last 2 years, TaylorMade M2 2016 driver. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. It's Simon down here at Sanford Springs Golf Club. Some early morning left-handed practice out here. It's beautiful, but I want to talk about top 5 £100 drivers or under that you can get this year. Even though everything seems like it's going over £100, no matter how old, what they are, these are the ones to look out for in the categories that I've divided them up to. I've updated this list. I've learned a lot more since my old list, what was potentially wrong with that list and what's right with this list, as well as let's look back at that list and see exactly what those clubs are now going for. If you like this video, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. So quickly, before we get into my top 5 for this year, let's look back way back when I made that video of the 5 that I chose and where their prices are at the moment. So in the distance category, I went down the SLDR route, which I do think is a good option for distance, but you could easily get these clubs for under £100. Now, this driver is teetering on the edge of 100 to 120, 140, depending on condition, and it just isn't that good of a driver. I know some of you in the comments going, it's the best driver I've ever hit. Yes, it's going to suit some of you, but I'm talking the general public. It's just so low spinning and you have to be an absolute animal to even get it in the air. But that's why it's in the distance category. Now this one will obviously make you laugh. In the forgiveness category, we went down Ping G Series. You could get a Ping G Series driver for £100, and to be honest, at the time I did say it was an absolute steal and good value for money, and I was obviously right, because you won't find one of these with a decent head, shaft, head cover for anywhere under £150 at the moment. Obviously if you find a really good deal on Facebook, that is different, but it just goes to show how much the times have changed over the last year or so and how cheap they were. But at the same time, I do feel like we'll be getting back to that point in the near future. My modern category, I went down the Mizuno ST180 because the driver had only actually been out at the time for a couple of years and it was so cheap compared to its recommended retail price. Now, again, like everything, it's risen in price. I'll be very surprised if any of you can find one around the £100. If you were to find the Mizuno ST180 around the £100 mark, then I do recommend him buying it. For whatever reason, Mizuno just don't sell woods, or they depreciate a lot when it comes to second-hand market. And lastly, what went from underrated to heavily overrated over the last 2 years, TaylorMade M2 2016 driver. Now, at the time, I loved it. You could get, and I did get, one of these for £80 for one of my videos, and time again, you could pick up these drivers. You've got to wait, do a bit of bargaining, get them for around £100. Now, you're lucky to get it under 170, 180. The really good conditions, over 200, which is ludicrous. It's a good driver, but it's not twice as good as the alternatives I'm going to give you now. Whether it's myself or the market or just a general consensus as a community, we've found this driver to be an absolute premium, and realistically at the £200 mark, it's heavily overrated now. So let's get into my new updated 2021 top 5 drivers for under £100. But please do take in consideration professional sellers, golf bidder, golf clubs for cash, etc. will still be advertising these drivers for £100, £150 to £160. But there are ready available, auctions ending, much more availability of these clubs going for £100 or less. Hence why this is the updated version. At number 1 in the distance category, we're not going too far afield from the SLDR, but I do feel there was many improvements, especially with the sliding weight system of having 2 weights in the bottom of the head, as well as just generally looking like a better driver. We're going with the R15. Now, surprisingly, for whatever reason, this driver came out 2 years later than the SLDR, yet it's not getting as much love. And I don't know if that's because the SLDR at the time had an incredible loft up marketing campaign that when everyone got back into golf this year, last year, everyone's thoughts, attentions drew to the SLDR. it's a long ball machine, but personally, for the money, it's definitely not worth any more than the R15. And as a personal taste, I would say the R15 was slightly more forgiving than the SLDR. And as you can see, you can get quite a few R15 drivers, either in black or white, for a decent amount of money. So number one in my distance category, definitely not losing any distance from its SLDR component, and being slightly cheaper, the R15 goes in number one. And in the number two spot, forgiveness. This is actually a very much hidden gem that not many people talk about, but it's an extremely good driver, and I don't particularly mind what version of it you go down the route of. Callaway XR. You can even get the XR Speed, which again only came out 3 years or so, for around £100. The XR 2016 version, again very decent, forgiving, weight at the back of it, decent shaft, grip, head, you name it. It's very much a driver for the people, and on average a lot more people would get on with this. Now obviously, as a preference, I would have gone down the Ping route, but we would have to go back to the G10 to get anywhere near the £100 mark. And again, as I said, massively overhyped, overrated for that price. Whereas the Callaway XR has kind of slidden under the radar. Not many people have talked about it. A lot more other drivers that aren't as good have shot up in price for whatever reason, and the XR has just stayed under the radar. Good rhyming. Therefore, for my forgiveness category, the Callaway XR, XR Speed, the original XR goes in my forgiveness category. In the number three category, modern, we're going down a nice UK favourite, Ben Ross Delta. I even reviewed this 2 years ago when it first came out, and these things are pumping out £100 or even less. Now, I'm not too sure on the supply because not too many of them are listed. If you go and look for them now, not many of them are listed, but when they do come up, that's not showing in the price. Normally, low supply, high demand, the price goes through the roof. With this case, low supply and low demand. Therefore, if you're patient, you wait, see a Delta, put it on your searching listings and see it come up for 80, 90, £100, you'll get an incredible amount of technology, shaft, grip, head, everything that you probably want from a £100 driver without a big name slapped to the back of it. These things are made, produced, built, as I said in my previous video when I talked about this driver, as good as the big boys and at a fraction of the cost. Therefore, in my modern category, Ben Ross Delta, great value. It's number four, the unique category. Now obviously last time I said Night Vapor mainly because of the colour, bit out there. Nike don't make drivers anymore, and it's around the £100 mark. Nightclubs again shot up in recent times just because obviously the scarcity of it, and there's just going to be no more supply. My unique club this time is any mini driver from TaylorMade that isn't relatively new, i.e. the original one and the 300 that's come out now. Aero burner SLDR, and the reason I wanted to put this in the unique category is it's for you guys that hit your 3-wood further than your driver. You're too steep, you need the loft, you're not going to change your swing. Mini driver could give you that extra 15-20 yards, and around 60 to 80 pounds, which some of these actually do go for. I think it's a great little experiment and something that potentially could really help your golf game and confidence when you're trying to tee off with the golf ball. They're all the same, it doesn't matter if it's this year's or last year's. Aero burner, SLDR, whatever version of the mini driver, it's just going to give you that launch but also keep the spin rate down, which also equates into distance. So unique category for me, mini drivers. And lastly, as my overall winner, and for the main reasons that there's an abundance of supply of this club out there, I don't think if even this video got 1 million people watching it and a good portion of those wanted to go down this route, it would affect the price or the supply of this club, which potentially where the M2 got to. Titleist 915 D2. D2 being the more forgiving type. There's so many of them out there. They're classic, they're forgiving, they look good. The shafts were very decent in them. And for under £100, these are readily available for under £100. If you can get the 917, great. If you get the 913, perfect. They're all the same. But 915 for the most up-to-date, decent shaft, forgiving head, X, Y, and Z for under £100, you just can't go wrong. And that is why that one takes my overall winner. So guys, there you have it. Thank you ever so much for watching my new updated top 5 drivers for under £100. I'll be sure to doing more of these videos with different elements, different clubs out there in the market, as I've learned, sifted through, found the good ones, found the bad ones, and everything in between. Guys, if you like this video, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new. See you guys later.